Hi, on this lesson we are going to learn about form validation. So on the previous lesson, as you know, we learned about controllers and we learned how to post data to a controller action. And on this lesson, we are just going to see how we can validate that data. So basically, we want to submit form data. We want to make sure that the data is, let's say, valid to then be inserted on the database, right? It is a contact us form that we are using here. So we want to make sure that an email is an email and that the name is actually a string and so on. So I'm just opening here our demo project again. So it's the one that we always use. So let's just do a recap very quickly here on the contact us form. It's the file that we are currently using as a contact us. So again, if you do a PHP artisan route list, you see that you have here on the get head contact us create, it goes to the action creates. And if we open here that controller creates, it goes to return view contact us form. That is actually the form that we can see here, the view that you can see here, right? So this is the one. So let me go back here. I already started my server. I'm just going to do actually it's already here. Contact us create. And as you can see, we have the form placed here. Just recapping very quickly, we have route here contactus.store, and then it's the method post, and we already passed here the CSRF field to avoid the cross-site scripting attacks. And also, without these, Laravel doesn't let you post in a normal default way. Of course, there is ways to override this, and to disable, but by default, you need to have it here. So here on the contact us controller, then when we post, we are going to be redirected to this store method, because as you can see here on the routes, we have the post for contact us that goes to the action store. So this is the one here. Very well. So let's then start doing just a quick test just to see what happens. So I'm going to just do here dump requests. And here everything is set. So if I'm just going to write here like John Smith, and here, I don't know, john.smith@live.com, and just send information. And here we go. So I'm just verifying what comes inside the request. So there is a lot of protected and public methods and attributes here. But if you go here to the request parameters, you see this is where it actually comes the token one, then comes the name John Smith, email, reason, sales. On this case comes the description, and then notes null, because we didn't place anything inside it. So we have the request, and now we want to validate it, right? So we want to make sure that our data is validated. So let's go very quickly here to do Laravel and see what is this part about the validation. So if you go here and then you come to the validation on the basics section, you see there is a lot of information, but these available validation rules. And here we go. So all of these links that you see here are validation rules that you can use. So for instance, accepted. The field under validation would be yes, on, one, or true. This is useful for validating terms of service or any checkbox that you have there. Then active URL, the field under validation would be valid A or AAA record according to the DNS get record PHP. So as you can see, we have a lot of them, right? I mean, some of them you'll use it, they are very popular, like, you know, like a string, or like the required, like this field is required, you know. The unique, you're also going to use them a lot in the future, you'll see. So here, the dates also, for instance, in case there is a date with a format that you can use here. I mean, from version to version of Laravel, from time to time comes new validations functions, and these validation functions are getting better and better. Okay, so it's mostly, let's say, enriched with the Laravel community most of the time. So here, let's then create our first validation. So all we need to do is to actually write like request. You access a method inside your request that is called GuessWhatValidator. Cannot be more simple than this. And here, what you pass is actually the attributes that comes from your form. So for instance, we have an attribute called name, right? If you go back to the contact us form, you have here name on this attribute. So okay, so let's say how do we want to validate the name? Well, I want to say, okay, I want to say that this value, this form input is required. Required means it needs to come with a value. It cannot be blank, it cannot be empty, okay? And I want to say, okay, I want to, now just for the sake of this example, I'm going to put, I want it to be numeric. And of course a name cannot be numeric, right? But it's just for you to see the differences here. Because if you put a string, then you can actually put letters and numbers. But in this case, I'm just going to put it like numeric so you can just check it out. So here, let's go back here to our contact us form. And I'm going to do send information and see what happens. It came back to the same form. As soon as I click on the send information, so let me show it again here so you can see. So remember that we placed required numeric. So actually it's expecting a number here and not a word. So if I do send information, again, a post, it posts to the contact us form, right? And then look what happens. It redirected back to our create form. And this is the behavior of this validate. This validate method does everything for you in terms of validating the fields. If there is an error, it redirects back to the form again, to your previous URL, to then the user can, of course, correct the data. But as you can see, there is a lot of stuff that happened here. For instance, we don't see any error, right? There, we just got, let's say, redirected back, and then we'd see again the form, and actually it cleaned our fields. So this is not what we want. At least we want to show the same field value that the user wrote on it, right? So here comes the beauty of Laravel again. It's all about things that are useful for us to use, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass a value, and then there is a helper file called old, and you just need to pass the input form name that you have here. So in this case, the name is the name, so I just write name. This name here should be equal to this value on the attribute name. What happens is that if there is a post back to the same, if there is a redirection to the same form, and actually Laravel already has a request that has that parameter, then it will automatically repopulate here because we have put old name. So it actually will, render the name value that comes there. So let me try it again. I'm going to write Bruno. I'm going to send information. It came back again, redirected, and it continues to write Bruno there. See? Actually, there is even a second parameter that if there is no old value for the name, then it should show the second one. So for instance, if I go back here for the beginning without making a post, it shows default because there is no old value. So very useful. If we just put old name, and here we need to put also value old email, and on the reason, well, on the reason is not so simple. So let me put here like value sales. Here I just put tech support. They are just examples, right? And here I just put general feedback. Just to, and how can I now select one? So because, you know, on the other ones you just put old and you write the attribute name there, right? So here it's a bit more tricky. All you need to do, you know, if you put the selected and we go back here, it selects the one that you want. So this selected must be dynamic, right? It must be chosen by the old that came. So you can continue to use the blend directive here, and we just write like old reason equals to sales, then write selected. If not, then don't write anything. So if we just put this code here, of course in this case it's static options. Normally you get this information from the database, and on the database you also can somehow dynamically select the one that was coming from the old. So when you generate these options dynamically, you automatically write the code to just put it once for the selected. We will see this later on the Eloquent lessons. So here, for instance, I'm just going to put here sales tech support, and here I'm going to put the general feedback, right? So if you go back here, it starts, in this case, selected, there is nothing to be selected. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. It has nothing, it just says sales. I'm going to put tech support, I send information, and see, it came back because the name is required, remember? And it continues to say tech support. So this is the beauty about this type of code that you can put here. Very well, so we now know how to put the old value that came there from the form. So now let's see how can we show the error. So for instance, on this case, if you look at this contact as controller, you see that it validated with a numeric, but when it posted back here, so if I put 4 A's, of course if I put a 1, 2, 3, if I put a number, it will pass. See? So this is what action the validate is passing it, right? Because there is nothing there. So if I go back to the create and I put Bruno, then it doesn't pass. And now we need to show the error. We need to write down an error here, right? So since this is a bootstrap form, well, you need to when the form is redirected, the framework, in this case the validate, immediately populates an object called error bags, and in this case you can access it via there is a global variable in this case here that you can use, that is the errors. So these errors, it's immediately instantiated and populated with the error. So for instance, if I want to see if there was an error, so I'm going to use the blade directive if. So if errors that exists here, and then you can utilize a method called as, and then there is a name. So if inside the errors it has an array with the name, then we do something, right? So I'm going to put an if, and for instance we can just write I think we can write like span, and then class, I think it's a help block if I'm not mistaken, and inside this we just put, we want to show the error now, right? So errors, and then you get the first one that has the name, the index, in this case the key called email. Sorry, in this case his name is not email. I was thinking about the other. So as you can see, if errors has name, then show this one errors first name. So let's see if this results send information. The name must be a number. How pretty it is. It's truly as simple as it is. So for instance, if now I need to copy this one here, and I just put email, right? And the option, well, this, in case of the option, we can select whatever we want here, so I don't put anything else. So again, validation is all about this. So let me do an F5 again for you to see. So for instance, if I put here AAA, it says the number is. Now look what happens if I take it out, because remember that we said here that is required. So required, if you go here to the options and to the available validations, if you click on the required, the field under validation must be present in the input data and not empty. Like, it must be present and not empty. A field is considered empty if one of the following conditions are true. The value is null, the value is an empty string, the value is an empty array or empty countable object, or the value is an uploaded file with no path. So it means that maybe the field is coming on the form from the form data, but if it fits inside these 4 conditions, then in one of these 4 conditions, then it automatically gives a false on the required on this case. So here, because it's required, so I don't put anything there, so it's actually going to be null. And if I click send information, see, the name field is required. So it writes down, there is actually 2 errors, because of course it's also not numeric, but in this case it says first, on the first you get the first error that it's on the errors array, and in this case the first one that it matches is this required one here. Okay, so again, validations, it's all about this. Of course, you have another way also to validate, that is to create actually a form request. We are going to see that on other lessons when we get more close to the eloquent, but for now I think it gives you a very good start for you to start playing with these, and also to see the other types of validations, functions and rules that you have here. For instance, just as a last minute knowledge here, for instance, if you go here to the unique, imagine that you are validating something, that an email, and in this case you want to validate against the database. So for instance, you have here a unique database. See, the field under validation must be unique in a given database table. If the column option is not specified, the field name must be unique. So it's very simple. You have an email, and then you say unique. You say your table. In this case, it's a table users, and the column is email address. So what Laravel will do is it will verify on this table for this column if the email that you're writing already exists or not, and then gives a message. You have lots of rules, validation rules, that are extremely useful. It's very rare that you have to construct one. But what happens if you have to construct one? So in this case, there is the custom validation rules, and you can actually create a rule object. So again, we are not going to see this on the lesson because it's already passed even some time. And you can see that you can create a class that implements the rule class, and then from here on, you just need to have a function passes and a function message to you to give the error in case it doesn't pass. And it's as simple as this. And then of course, just to use it, as you can see here on an example, you just need to put, you create an array for that attribute that you're trying to validate, and you just put new and then the name of your class, and it's as simple as this is. So on the next lesson, we are going to learn, we are going to start learning one of the final pieces in terms of all of these client form validations and form submissions that is called middleware. And then from there on, we are going to then start learning actually how to store data on the database. So I hope you like it, and see you again on the next lesson. Thank you very much.